Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today's upload is, well, it's not in this room, actually. The majority of it is where Tom Mezek disappeared. I share a couple of really terrifying encounters up there and just have an interesting time. Before we get into all that, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. Merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon and please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, they definitely matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload, shall we? Alright guys, I am back up to where Tom Mezek disappeared today. And I am on the wash where the whatever smashed through that tree smashed through the tree. I'm going to turn the camera around, but I want to kind of give you guys the layout of exactly what it looks like here. So hang on one second. So this is, I'm flat grounded right now, but as you can see, it goes up into the woods. That's the parking area where I parked. There's some bird noises where I parked, but nothing up in here. I'm gonna come back up in a couple of days when I get the trail cam. But this has got me a little sketched out today. I don't know why, but I mean, I have no idea what that was up here. Whew. So, I mean, you can see that I am on a mountain. Now, just kind of that way, up that berm would be where I found those rocks. Sorry about that. Alright, I'm going to turn the camera off so you guys don't hear me chug-a-lugging up this hill. Because, I mean, here's even ground. And it does go straight up. So, when I get to where I want to be, I will resume filming. So, or if I get kind of freaked out. Alright, so I'm about where I was last time. I don't like it here at all. Really quick, this location right here where these two rocks are is where I was sitting when whatever, and it's dead silent today. Dead silent. I'm gonna flip the camera around real quick. Alright, so I was sitting right here. I had my camera propped out on that rock. I'm sitting on this rock. This over here is when I was running, when I hit about to where that rock right there, I turned back and I saw something come running through this way, up through there. I am armed. I am armed. I don't know why my voice just did that. But, yeah. It's definitely not comfortable here today. Not at all. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the area right in here is where whatever it was smashed through the tree. I think it was those in that area right there. I do have that feeling of being watched though. I think I'm gonna find a different spot. What I wanna do real quick while we're here, what I wanna do is, so those rocks are right there where I just showed you. What I was thinking about doing was putting a trail cam on that tree right there. See how it kind of crosses right there? But they're not crossed. That's just how that tree is bent. Whatever it was over in there. Alright, I'm gonna walk a little ways more, find a spot. I got some encounters I want to share with y'all. And then I'm getting the hell out of here. Because I really do feel like I should have brought someone with me. And guys, I've been here a ton of times. I'm not scared of much, but for some reason, whoa, something feels off. Something is up between there and there. Alright, I'm gonna walk down. What is that? I don't know if you guys can. Some sort of shadow just moved up through there. That's zoomed in, guys, so sorry. Alright, I'm gonna walk out of here to a different spot and I'm gonna narrate some encounters to you guys. Hang on one second. Alright, so I'm a little closer to Route 8. Wind picked up a little bit. We got some bird noises around us. As long as I can hear some noise, I'm feeling alright. Just up that way is the rest of the mountain. Like I said, I am right, not close. I'm about a mile from Route 8. So, but where I was initially was up there, was about 2 miles. So I'm gonna come back up. I'm gonna bring my daughter's boyfriend with me. That way he can hold onto a firearm while I am trying to locate an area to put that trail cam like I said I wanted to. I keep getting stuff out of the periphery. It's probably just my imagination, but anyway, here's a couple of encounters. I live in western Montana, and I live on a reservation known as the Blackfoot Nation. My father was a tribal member, and my mom was not. I am therefore a white descendant, and I've grown up experiencing both sides of the culture. Both white and native have stories that they rarely tell. When my dad was born, he was conscious. This is something he would never tell a stranger, but I am telling you what he told me. He remembers being in the waiting room before birth and surrounded by thousands of babies. Some were deformed, some were sickly. They were black, Asian, and other races, and one of them was covered in hair. It's impossible for me to explain this part better than he could, but basically he saw the waiting room for souls. He was one of the few who were led through. I'm only sharing this detail because as a child I had dreams about the hearing man and his family before I was ever exposed to the concept of Bigfoot. These dreams were frightening and unexplained and only made sense years later when my dad relayed this to me. In my opinion, the hairy man is somehow related to this area in a big way. My ancestors, having been the first to settle this area, have had extensive experiences with the hairy man. Sasquatch may be a part of my genetic memory as well as my dad's and our granddad's. My father was born with the precognition of the hairy man. As a small boy, he was playing in the living room with many brothers, and one of them burst through the door screaming and crying for my grandmother to come out and make him go away. This was the first time the hairy man had appeared in my dad's life. My uncle, also a child at the time, had seen a Sasquatch in the small garden out back, which is next to a small creek. The Sasquatch was stealing vegetables and ran off, never to be seen again. Nobody spoke of this event afterwards. Sasquatch was taken for granted back then. As the years went by, for my dad reached his early 20s, and stories began popping up around the res about a wild man breaking into homes and scaring children at night. The wild man is said to be very large and smelly. One family particularly started to be visited by this hairy man almost every night. They would come home to see the door left open, their food taken, their animals cowering and hiding. This routine was so familiar that they treated it as a common occurrence, like a family ghost. Everyone started to lock their doors at night. The dogs were acting cowardly for no apparent reason. The wild man was having his way. He was getting bold. He started to break into houses during the middle of the day. The children would see him. Tribal police were called and meetings were held. The town was becoming more and more shaken up by this presence of this unknown intruder. This was when something incredible happened to a particular family who was favored by the hairy man. One night he was while standing on a porch, the father was yanked off by his feet in full view of the entire family. They screamed and huddled together and cried. While whatever it was, it fought with the father on the porch. The sounds of fighting and screaming were traumatic for the children. They were not grown up like myself, and I wonder to this day how much it affected their lives. The father was gone for days. Whatever it was had taken him and carried him off into the night after the struggle on the porch. There was blood on the grass, and the family grabbed the neighbors and other men from the community to help recover the father. The men got together and followed signs of the trail left by whatever it was. There were drops of blood and signs of something large passing through. They followed this trail all the way back to the very creek where my uncle had spotted a Bigfoot when he was a boy. They followed the creek all night. When the men returned the next day, they didn't speak a word. The whole group of grown men, not one of them was willing to speak about what happened. They had, however, found the father and recovered him. He was beaten black and blue all over his entire body. He had broken arms and legs, and he was in shock and incoherent. He couldn't speak a word. One of my uncles had gone to see the man and his family in the hospital. There was a fair amount of goodwill being shown to the family that went through this horrible experience. Nobody knew what happened. Only the father was close to death and the family was shaken up. My uncle stopped by to pay his respects and saw for himself the father lying in the hospital, his eyes bulging wide. He was trembling constantly. The man was beaten badly. He died that night, and to this day nobody knows what grabbed him or what happened to him. To this day, the men who went on a recovery mission to save him kept their stories to themselves. Only a select circle, including my father, remembers these incidents. All that I was told was that the men found what had taken the father. They found the hearing man, and they killed it with high-powered rifles and buried the body. The men who did feel this incredible guilt, older generations told us to avoid the Sasquatch and leave them alone because they are human beings. They are not animals and they are not magic, but they can most certainly be monsters. And this one story corroborates that. Tonight's second encounter. This was shared with me probably about a year ago by a United States Border Control agent who obviously wanted to remain anonymous. Some of his experiences were shared with me about working on the southern border were interesting, including some Bigfoot type encounters, but the first that he explained was a Dogman. This occurred when he was still training for his job. It really shook him because he had never seen anything like it before. So he drove with his senior co-worker, a field training officer. They were in a Ford pickup driving around, showing him the checkpoints and hot spots where they usually found people illegally crossing. I believe he said he was working a 10 to 12 hour shift. This was at the Arizona/California border where it intersects with Mexico. One evening, while he was still fairly new, he actually had a cold and wasn't feeling very well. They were traveling on the dirt road, which was part of their normal routine. They didn't see any signs of people, which they thought was a little odd because he says they always see trash, water bottles, clothes, and something out there. They got to the turnaround and flipped on their spotlights and didn't see anything. As they were turning around, the headlights and the spotlights illuminated something in the distance. The training officer looked over. "Oh, it's probably just a wild animal. We should go take a look." They got closer, and I guess at this point the terrain got kind of rough. He slowly drove forward while observing this animal. They could tell that it had black fur, but we're not sure what they were looking at. Maybe we should just leave it alone. He was really urging the training officer that they should just get out of there. His response was, "No, we need to go check it out." Then clicked with the training officer that something wasn't right. It looked like a bear hunched over while eating something. They got within 30 yards of it, a good distance, but still close enough that they could see what was going on. At this point, they flipped on another set of lights from the light bar on the roof. The creature lit up and then stood up. He thought it was a giant man in a fur coat, but as it turned around, he noticed that it had a dog's head, like a wolf's head. It was all black, and you could see its eyes. The eye shine was reflecting an embered tint. It was very muscular and very broad at the shoulders. It was way too large to be a dog or a wolf, plus it was standing on its hind legs. He immediately stopped the truck as they watched this upright creature looking at them. After several seconds, this dog man eventually took a step forward towards them. Then it took another step and was closing the distance. It wasn't walking fast, but its strides were so huge, and it was getting closer and closer. They threw the truck in reverse. The dog man opened its mouth a little bit and hunched over like it was sizing up prey. He quickly turned the truck around and drove away from this creature. He looks in the rear view and could still see the creature illuminated in the red rear taillights. He had never seen anything like this before. It scared them very badly. They directly drove back to the station. His training officer said it was just a big dog, but they did not talk about it to anyone. They didn't mention it in their nightly report, and he was told never to speak about it with anyone. Occasionally, you'll pick up migrants that will talk about lobos or the big hairy man and other strange stuff in the desert. Alright, so I figured I'd leave the wash area and go down Lily Pond Trail. As you can see, I don't know if you can see the hill, the mountain behind me, but that's the mountain behind me. So I'm going to go down, hit Lily Pond Trail, and show you guys where the trees that I was talking about yesterday were. Oh, and something I wanted to kind of comment on really quick. Apparently a subscriber is quite bothered by me talking about Tom Mezek. He says that I talk about him far too often. And if I do, and if this bothers anybody, I do apologize, but it has become an addiction for me, I guess, an infatuation. I don't know. I'm going to turn the camera around quick, and then I want to kind of zoom in because I'm catching some kind of glint over there. Alright, so I'm catching some kind of glint over here just a few minutes ago while I was talking to you. But, look, that's level. There. That's where I just came from. There's a marker. And that is way up there. I don't know, it just really feels off today, to be honest with you. So, alright, let's hit Lily Pond Trail. Alright, so we are on Lily Pond Trail. Much different terrain. A lot easier to hike. I'm looking forward to hearing from the guy out of California to see what he comes up with the pack of Dogmen out in San Bernardino. But here, I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see the trail and where I am. Mosquitoes are out crazy. Hang on one second. Alright, so this is part of the trail. It's not big at all. It's not large. What's weird is I never noticed that tree kind of going over that. That's weird. Never noticed it. You can hear the wind coming up. That's the ravine down in there. And then we're gonna walk to about where the trees are bent over, and then I'm just gonna head out today. Just a really eerie feeling today. I don't know if it's me or not, but I'm usually not this freaked out about this location at all. That wash that I was just on would be just beyond that point. So, but anyway, man, the bugs are worse out here. Jesus. Anyway, yeah, the guy in California, I'm hoping that he can record that whole conversation with him and share that with us, because I think it'll be pretty interesting to hear. Wow, it is definitely, I really wish I had brought someone with me today. to be honest with you, because this is just not a good feeling here today. Not at all. God damn, these bugs are terrible. Alright, so we're coming up to the point where the trees and those 3 rocks are stacked, which I'm not going to hike into today. But see the trees? See how they're bent? No other trees are bent that way. Just right here. Just all right here. They're bent. And right in there, I foraged my own trail to get up to those rocks that are in there. But none of the other trees are bent, except right here. All right here. Got a state marker of New York State. Hey, this is for that guy that says I don't live in New York State. Alright, I'm just going to end it today. Around that bend and down is where I said the kill zone was and where I caught that. Whatever crossed the trail in front of us. But yeah, I'm just going to end the day. Get out of here. Go home. And I don't know. Just something's off today. Something's really off. So I'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Alright, so we are back home from our trip up to where Tom Mesick disappeared. And I don't know if any of you guys noticed this yesterday, but I put the midday bonus out at 8 p.m. and the second half out at like 11. I don't know if I lost track of time or what happened, but I left that area at like 3:30, 3:45 to get back home by like 4:30, 5 o'clock and upload the midday bonus for you all. The next thing I remember is sitting in my studio and uploading at 8 o'clock. I try to go up there when Isabel, my youngest daughter, is at her mom's, her once a week trip there. So I get like a day to do anything. But so I didn't have any other distractions. I came home, I got my studio, and I don't know. It was weird. I just lost track of time sitting at my house. I wasn't watching any kind of shows. I wasn't watching YouTube. I can't explain it. So that was weird because up there was just really off. It was just a really off feeling. I can't even explain how off it felt. But with that, I shared 2 encounters up there. I'm going to share a couple more and we'll end the upload with that. So let's get into it. Today's third encounter. I cannot tell you what I saw that day, but I can describe it. I lived in Skykomish, Washington for a couple of years and was pretty curious about Sasquatch. I've had a couple of experiences, but this was different. I was out for a walk with my dog one afternoon in the summer of 2018 and turned to see something watching us from behind an embankment. It looked like a tree stump. I stopped and stared at this thing for 30 seconds. It had an owl face feature, but it was huge. It had owl-faced features, but it was huge. The head of it was sticking up from behind this embankment, and it was the size of an old-growth tree stump. I was close to this thing, about 20 feet away. I could see its eyes were closed but squinting to observe me. It almost seemed sloth-like. It had designs that were a cross between bark lines and an owl pattern marks. I felt no fear at all. It was staring at me and I said, "What the hell is that?" My dog didn't seem to notice it. After a bit, I looked down and stepped forward without feeling threatened. When I looked back up, it was gone. I stood there for a moment, then got spooked and went home. I walked back to that spot and stood there every day looking for whatever it might have been that I seen. I walked behind that embankment one time to size it up, and it would have to be at least 6 feet tall. No, excuse me, the embankment was at least 6 feet tall. So whatever I saw was 7 to 8 feet. There was a lot of super eerie calls in the area, a lot of Sasquatch. I believe there were other undocumented creatures as well. I have some photos of odd things, but I didn't have my camera on me that particular day. It could have been, he didn't, it had owl-like features, right? It didn't have wings. He didn't, he just said it had these features like an owl. It could have been a Sasquatch. It could have been something undocumented, like he said. Very creepy encounter. Anyway, let's jump into tonight's fourth encounter. On the evening of July 11th, 2023, I walked outside of my house to investigate why my neighbor's dog was wildly barking. I live in a small town in northern Minnesota. I went through the door at the side of my house that is connected to the garage. Anyway, while I was standing by the side of my home wondering what the dog was barking at, I looked to my right, where there is a small, empty lot full of grass and brush. And I saw something about the size of a Great Dane with large, pitch-black eyes staring at me. It was light brown, it had long fur, and was standing in the grass about 30 yards from me. I think its face was that of a monkey, maybe. Actually, it reminded me of a baboon. And there is no way that is what it was. Anyway, I'm almost 100% sure that it was not a dog or any kind of cat at any sense. I screamed so loud that my neighbor ran out and started to look for whatever it was. My neighbor grabbed his rifle and walked into the lot. After several moments, he returned and said that whatever it was had growled at him, but was hidden in the brush. He said the growl was unlike anything he had ever heard before. He's a hunter and is very familiar with the local wildlife. Whatever it was could be heard running off. We called the local police and reported the sighting. To me, that sounds like a Dogman. A very strange looking Dogman, I guess. Pretty interesting account, though. And tonight's final encounter. I was black powder hunting alone in a very rural area in Grayson County, Kentucky, far off of the parkway. An off-grid property with old-growth timber surrounding it for many miles in every direction, with just a few seasonal hunting cabins that lie dormant most of the year. I've deer hunted this property all my life, and I've never had any reason to fear walking into my deer stand in the dark, until the season of 2008 that changed my life forever. As I rode my four-wheeler in and parked 250 yards outside of my favorite spot and walked the rest of the way in, to not spook any game before I got to my stand. So I shut off my four-wheeler and put on my pack. I heard a large limb snap. I thought it was a deer or an animal moving around, maybe 20 yards away. I didn't think much of it. I just figured I'd spooked something in the woods. So I gathered my rifle and hunting stuff and started walking down this 2-track trail without my flashlight on, due to having good enough light from the moon to see where I was walking. Like I said, I've hunted this for a long time and I knew the trail pretty well. The trail ended in a 15-acre hayfield surrounded by old-growth timber. As I walked in the dark, I started to realize that something was paralleling my every step just inside of the woodline. I walked and stopped, and it would do the same. As I moved along the dark trail, the footsteps started getting closer to me. I wasn't sure, but it sounded like it was bipedal. By the time I realized I had a serious situation on my hands, it was too far and too late to make it back to my four-wheeler safely. So I picked up my pace and made a beeline for the field. I got to the field with my stalker pacing my every step. I moved swiftly toward my stand 75 yards down the edge of the woods. When I got within 10 yards of my stand, I heard another large limb snap very close to the edge of that field on my left. I stopped, turned the flashlight on, and shined it in the direction. I observed two glowing green eyes about 10 inches apart. Instinctively, I raised my hands in the air and yelled, "Get out of here!" and stomped my foot at it. Not really sure what I was seeing. It just blinked its eyes once and never moved. I couldn't make out any other details, just that it may have been crouched down due to the proximity of the eyes to the ground. Whatever it was, didn't run like most non-predatory animals do. I realized in that instant the best thing to do was to take higher ground, get to the stand as quickly as possible. This, whatever it was no more than 8 steps away, and if I shot at it in the dark, I would have been blinded by the muzzle flash, and it may attack if I missed. And I only had one shot. I knew I'd be in trouble if I did miss. I climbed up the ladder like a squirrel. I watched, listened, and waited for what seemed like an eternity for daybreak. This thing circled my stand just out of reach of the flashlight for over an hour, and I'm not ashamed to admit I was scared, but I remained calm and knew the only way it could get me was this ladder. I felt comfort in knowing that I had to climb up the ladder to get to me, but didn't seem to know how exactly to utilize it. At one point in the dark, I heard what sounded like a small rock bounce off the lower end of the metal ladder. I waited with my gun at the ready, and I would have done whatever it took to stay alive, and was not going out without a fight. I could see a shadow moving, but in the dark you never know if your eyes are playing tricks on you, but I could sense a real threat lurking in the dark field surrounding my deer stand. For whatever reason, this thing was stalking me and did so until just a few seconds before daybreak. I heard its footsteps fade into the woods where it had followed me from. I waited, watched, and listened intently until full daylight and descended cautiously down the ladder on high alert. As I walked back to my four-wheeler, I knew this thing was not gone, but hiding inside the forest, watching my every move. I moved across the field quickly and waited and listened before heading down to the two-track trail surrounded on both sides by trees. I knew this would be a perfect ambush spot with close quarters and not much room to evade or fight off an attack. I unsnapped my hunting knife sheath, got a firm grip on my black powder rifle, and went for broke, ready to battle for my life or death. As I rounded that corner where my four-wheeler was sitting, I saw my escape and wasted no time jumping on that machine. As I turned the key and reached to hit the starter button, I heard another branch or limb snap with great force somewhere behind me. The quad fired up and I goosed that throttle hard, going through the gears as fast as I could and didn't look back. To be honest, I didn't want to know what it was and was just relieved that I was able to escape. I got back to my cabin, packed up and left the area and went home and cut the week-long hunting trip short. I didn't return until the following spring. I often thought about this experience, and since I realized the days leading up to it, I didn't see any wildlife at all. The forest was eerily quiet, no animal activity at all. What it was, you ask? I have no idea. Your guess is as good as mine. Bigfoot, Dogman, who knows? I changed my hunting tactics, how and when I enter the woods, and I always carry a backup sidearm. And I tune into what the creatures are in the woods and what they're telling me before I enter. If the squirrel and birds are not moving around normally, then there is a predator in the mist, and I just won't go hunting at all. Alright guys, that was today's upload. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Once again, I cannot explain, and I'm not saying that it was like some kind of, involvement with the woods that day. Like maybe a portal opened or something messed my head up a little bit. I don't know what happened yesterday. I really don't. I got home. I was freaked out up there, obviously, you can tell. It was just a weird vibe up there. But when I got home, I never lose track of time. I literally wanted to put the midday upload up for you all, and then I wanted to mow my lawn. Because like I said, I only have one day a week where I don't have my daughter. The rest of the time, 6 days a week, she's in my custody. It just makes no sense. It really doesn't. It's the strangest thing, Anyway, with that, thank you for being the foundation of this platform. Because without you guys, this channel would be nothing. You guys are what keeps it together. I truly, truly appreciate all of the support and kindness. With that, guys, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. Keeping an eye on your children, your pets, your loved ones. These creatures are out there. And it might not even be a creature. You might step into something that your poor little kid might be walking in the backyard and gone. I mean, we've heard stories of it. There was, I forget exactly where it was. I want to say Tennessee. But the gentleman was like walking in his field, and his wife was watching him, and all of a sudden, gone. This is a while ago, like hundreds of years ago. About 100 years ago. She could hear him talking. He was never seen again, and they searched that field for any kind of sinkhole or guys, there is a lot of strangeness out there, and we just need to be careful. All right, guys, thank you for everything, and God bless every single one of you.